I was blown away by what I was reading.
After new evidence was published about Ferdinand Eckhart, most known as a 21-year former director of the Winnipeg Art Gallery, being a strong Nazi supporter, Winnipeggers are calling on institutions to begin reconciling possible Nazi pasts.
We need to learn from people like Eckhart. We need to learn why these attitudes of anti-Semitism and pro-Hitlerism were so widespread.
Helmut Harry Lowen is an anti-fascist scholar and former instructor at the University of Winnipeg. He says recent evidence published in a Canadian magazine proves Eckhart was a Nazi supporter and points to Eckhart's writings published in well-known Nazi newspapers and a public vow of allegiance to Adolf Hitler signed by Eckhart and other prolific German writers at the time.
You can call Ferdinand Eckhart a fellow traveler or a sympathizer with Hitler. There's no question he was that. It goes deeper. He was an ideologically committed fascist who was a faithful servant to the genocidally racist Nazi regime.
Lowen says this is important to recognize now, following a recent incident at the House of Commons, where a man who volunteered to fight in a Nazi unit was honored by Parliament.
My point is this: those legacies continue, right? And in many ways, if we don't come to terms with them, they will continue to mar our sense of solidarity and belonging.
I think it's the sort of thing that needs to be part of the historical record. It also, I think, raises interesting questions about the nature of post-war Canada.
Conrad Sweatman wrote the article about Eckhart's past, published earlier this month in the Walrus magazine. He says his intent in bringing more information to light about the former art gallery director was to start conversation.
I know he's a complex person, and I'm hoping that, if people are interested, maybe a more nuanced conversation happens about just who he was.
The question that we are confronted with now, given this research, is what do we do with the information that we have about Eckhart's deep-seated commitments to fascism and his loyalty to Hitler?
Lowen says it's now up to institutions as a whole, including universities, scholars, donors, and patrons, to acknowledge difficult pasts and find ways to move forward.
What I would hope is that in the wake of that disaster in the House of Commons, that Canadians would be a bit more willing to confront this past.
The WAG Cal York says it's investigating the matter and will share its findings publicly. Visit our website for more on this story. In Winnipeg, Joanne Roberts, City News.